Hey everybody, today I want to talk about a pretty good Netflix original show by acclaimed British asshole and comedian Ricky Gervais called Afterlife. The Netflix original series Afterlife is a 6-episode series of short 25-minute long episodes about a British man living in a small town in England who recently lost his wife of 25 years. The main character Tony, played by Ricky Gervais, who is also the series' sole director and writer, is a journalist in a small town's free newspaper who is basically done caring about life. He's constantly on the brink of suicide, and unlike other near-suicidal characters in other TV shows and movies, he's not just moping around all day, although there is a fair bit of that, but instead, he considers all of the time after his wife's untimely passing as what he calls bonus time, in which he can go around and be as much of a dick as he wants, not only to friends and family members, but he also considers the town drug addict and even little kids fair game.
What?
Pedo!
I'm not a pedo, and if I was, you'd be safe, you tubby little ginger cunt.
If it's not apparent from what I just described, this show is a comedy, but it's also a pretty serious drama as well. In case you haven't forgotten, the real premise is this guy in his 50s has lost the absolute love of his life. Throughout the 6 episodes of the series, he's often looking back at old videos he has of his wife, some of which are of her when she's in the hospital for a terminal cancer treatment, trying to give him life advice for after she passes that he, for better or for worse, tends to avoid. But there are also some videos of them he watches of the good times he had with his wife. The relationship he had is almost fictionally amazing, but also quite mundane in a way. His videos with his wife during the best moments aren't them at the beach or on some picnic in an idealized park, but rather him mostly just fucking around with her and having fun. Him pranking her, them half in the bag trying to perform middle-aged people gymnastics together, and just doing other generally having a normal good time activities. Overall, the relationship is a little TV show idealized, but that's what makes Tony's depression and anger feel real and relatable. If I were deeply in love with someone for 25 years, and she was the only love of my life, and we matched together so perfectly well, and had no kids, and was at a relatively boring job in a small town, and that one person that was my whole life, I mean, not only was she his whole life, she was all he needed or even wanted from life.
I just wanted to get home every night, spend every available minute I could with Lisa.
If that woman were suddenly taken from me at such a young age, I feel like I would feel almost exactly the way Tony feels in this show, which is just, fuck it. Fuck you, fuck everyone. It's time for me to exit this mortal plane, stage left, and as long as I'm here and I haven't actually gone through with the difficult act of killing myself yet, I'm going to tell everyone exactly how I feel and do exactly what I want. But to be fair, this show is also a comedy. Ricky Gervais, for those of you who are not in the know, is incredibly famous in Britain and even to some degree in the United States. And he's famous for being a dick. That's it. That's what he does. And he brings a lot of that to his shows, not only through his character of Tony, but through other supporting characters like his inattentive psychiatrist.
Sorry, am I boring you?
Just got into an argument on Twitter with this absolute moron medical student, and now he's decided to block me because he couldn't take it. It's pathetic.
He also uses his newfound prowess of direct dickheadishness, not just for evil, but also for good. And there is certainly a lot of nice-hearted goodness in this series as well. First of all, the scenery of the series is a nice little town in Britain that, contrary to what most know of weather in England, is always nice and sunny. Everything is well lit. There aren't scenes of him wallowing gloomily in the rain or anything like that. It's all fairly nicely done. And there are some, for lack of a better term, heartwarming situations. He befriends a prostitute, not for sexual transactions, but rather to help him clean his house and just maybe feel a little bit of female companionship in his life. Not the sexual type of female companionship, not even really a romantic type, but I could see that after your wife passes, it could be nice to have a funny, kind-hearted woman around. There's also a 20-something new hire at his work whom he is tasked with showing the ropes to. Although she's not a huge character in the series, she does bring about some of the good qualities in Tony, because she, like his wife, totally gets his humor.
Tony, please be happy.
What?
You make me laugh all the time. Tony, you're breaking my heart.
Okay.
Most people in the series see his humor as bitter and unnecessary, but she sees his doing it not so much to hurt people's feelings as much as he's doing it to just have a good laugh in a miserable time in his life. But the real thing that sold this series for me was Tony's depression. So many times in movies and TV shows, a character is depressed because of the mundaneness of life. Going to work every day without much of a reason to live, or not being able to attract a mate, or other things, while relatable, are things that are not quite as decisively painful as losing the one person in the world that is most important to you, and at such an earlier time in one's life than they would have expected. At one point in the series, he's interviewing an older gentleman, and during the course of the interview, he's quite sarcastic in the usual way we're used to in the series, but then he suddenly finds out that the man is a widower, and Tony immediately feels a sense of empathy for the man.
Nothing's as good if you don't share it. I still have my downs, but then life throws you these interesting little things, doesn't it? You can't feel sorry for yourself. Got to keep going.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
I would say someone who is only empathetic to those who have gone through almost the exact same hardship as himself isn't very empathetic at all, but it does drive home the point that this kind of sadness one gets from losing a spouse, this depression cuts people in a very certain way that once you've experienced it, you can understand it very well. Overall, although the character of Tony can seem a little bit like a spoiled brat who decides that if something bad happens to him, he has the right to make everyone else feel like shit, and the fact that this relationship with his wife is a bit too idealized, the show is generally worth a watch. And another really great upside is the length of the series. 6 episodes at about 25 minutes each brings up to about 2.5 hours, which is like a slightly long movie, but chopped up in such a way that there are sub-stories and peaks and valleys in the story that make it interesting throughout. The show is easily available on Netflix, and I suggest if you have the time and want to see a nice little story surrounding a bitter but funny asshole, give Afterlife a shot.